Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Autism News Report. I am going to be kicking this week off with a new study. It says that Prozac proves no better than a placebo in treating kids who are on the spectrum. And then they went farther than just saying Prozac. They said that SSRIs don't ease obsessive compulsive symptoms in children who are on the spectrum. The study found that Prozac is no more effective than a placebo in treating OCD in children who are on the spectrum. And this was published in a randomized clinical trial that was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So this really casts doubt on the practice of prescribing SSRIs to children who are on the autism spectrum. Currently, SSRIs account for a third of all prescriptions for kids who are on the spectrum. Now, this study wasn't huge. It included 109 children and teens, and it prescribed them with a low dose of either the generic Prozac or a placebo. It then measured the participants' obsessive-compulsive symptoms before and after treatment. It is possible that the small size of the study could have affected the results, but at this point we really don't know. One of the reasons the study was interesting to me is because we do have a kid who has a lot of anxiety and OCD symptoms, and after many different things we talked to her doctor and started an SSRI, I think about a year ago, and everyone from teachers to therapists to everyone noted how helpful it was, and especially us at home. And one thing that it does make me wonder about in this was that it did take a little bit to get the dose affected. It wasn't just one trip to the doctor. We go back to the doctor every 2 months, and her doctor also talks to a doctor at another major children's hospital who helps with the adjustments. It isn't just, I don't know, it just makes me wonder if that one-size-fits-all low-dose approach didn't have something to do with it. I mean, I guess that's how trials like this are done, and everyone would have taken the same low dose, but for us, we saw a huge decrease in a variety of different behaviors, from just repetitive behaviors that were extremely depressing for the kid to self-harming behaviors that were frightening and that were physically harmful. And so I am skeptical that there's no benefit at all for, or any sort of blanket statement that there's no benefit at all for kids on the spectrum. Because I mean, I know my personal experience is just anecdotal, but my personal experience is just very vivid for us because we saw an immediate response and a drastic response over the last year. And this kid doesn't have to walk by something and touch it 10 times, doesn't have to, if they bump into a stranger, they don't go and try to bump into the stranger again another 5 times. They aren't banging their head into the wall over and over again every morning. And so for us, this study definitely does not reflect our own personal experience. This next story is really cool. As soon as I saw the headline, I breathed a sigh of relief. A 12-year-old boy eloped in Omaha, Nebraska, and he was located thanks to a police officer using Project Lifesaver technology. At 3:56, officers responded to a missing 12-year-old autistic boy. At 4:02, an officer with a Project Lifesaver receiver responded to the area, and at 4:04, the officer located the boy. That, to me, I get teary just reading that. That is amazing. That is exactly how this is supposed to work. Our nearest police department that has Project Lifesaver technology is over an hour away, and we're between 2 big cities. So I just keep hoping that this technology spreads and that more and more police departments are able to get this, because it is really great. The Omaha Police Department had partnered with the Autism Action Partnership in July of this year to begin Project Lifesaver training, and families had begun enrolling in it in September, so this is fairly new to the area. This incident marks the first successful use of Project Lifesaver technology by the Omaha Police Department. That is just awesome news. And following that story, there was also a story that had a good ending in Kansas, where a 15-year-old boy eloped and was found by police. This last story is out of Michigan, which is where we live, and I will admit that when I first read about it and it popped up in my news feed, it made me sick to my stomach. So I am going to start with that warning right here. It is pretty horrible. and I guess I missed it when the initial story came off. The father of an autistic teen who died last March after drowning in an above-ground backyard pool was arrested on Thursday at his work. The father is expected to be arraigned on charges of involuntary manslaughter, second-degree child abuse committed in the presence of another child, and fourth-degree child abuse. The parents already had a lengthy history with Child Protective Services. From the reports I've read, the father was an associate professor at the local community college, and he got his son on the bus in the morning. It was a half day. He came home, brought him out into the backyard of the house, which is apparently where he would hang out a lot. The mom was asleep because she worked third shift. There were two teenage sisters who were home at the time, it sounds like, a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old. The boy was 16, and they say that he liked to spin around in the backyard. However, there was a pool in the backyard that was full of ice because it was March and they were in Michigan, and the water was chest deep on the boy. And apparently he had arm restraints on that bound his arms to his body. At around 3:20 in the afternoon, the 18-year-old daughter came home and she saw her brother in the pool with his arms bound, and she went around the house calling for her mom, and I guess her mom didn't hear her, didn't wake up, didn't come, and she ended up leaving the house. She said that her brother was often outside unattended for hours. She said it wasn't unusual for her brother to be unsupervised for hours and hours at a time while her mom was sleeping and her father wasn't around. The detectives also downloaded the younger sister's phone and saw the texts between the father and the younger sister, who's 13, and the father had sent a text asking if she was home and to make sure that Freak is okay. He told her that her brother was supposed to be out back, and he also asked if her mom was up yet. At 4:11, so almost an hour after her older sister had left, the 13-year-old sent a photo of her brother, who was in the pool at that point in time, and her dad said to get him out, to pull him out. At 4:13, she said he was in the middle of the pool, which is icy, so she doesn't want to get in the pool. Her father said to yell at him to come back. She said she thinks he's stuck, and sent another photo. He said something I'm not really going to repeat. I don't know why you'd say that about someone. And he told her to get her mother. At 4:27, he asked if Sam's in the pool, and at 4:44, he asked his daughter what's going on. There's no response to either question. The younger daughter was removed from the home after the death. The boy was sleeping in an unfinished basement on a feces-covered mattress. And like many of these sorts of things, if you go to the comments section of the local stories, most of the comments just in my beginning of a scroll through were people defending the father and talking about how the family had obviously lived in hell, and so this was bound to happen, that sort of thing, which has been the past in other autism deaths and even murders that I have seen, where a lot of people quickly jump to the defense and basically say, oh well, this was bound to happen, which has always been infuriating to me. I talked about that once on my blog, and I had a lot of people actually respond and say that I just didn't get it. Obviously, that just means your kids are so high functioning that you don't understand. But no, it really bothers me immensely how, if it was a neurotypical child, everyone would be outraged in the comments section and talking about how vile and disgusting this was, and that this poor boy lived in filth, and that this is a horrible, horrible crime. And manslaughter? That was manslaughter? He knew his son was in a freezing pool with his arms bound for over an hour, and he did nothing. He didn't even call his wife and wake her up. I mean, you don't leave that to a 13-year-old. It's not the 13-year-old's responsibility, it's the parent's responsibility. I've been thinking about this since I first saw the article several days ago. It's so upsetting to me how people always justify it. It is stressful to be a parent. It's stressful to be a parent of a neurotypical child. It's stressful to be a parent of any child, but it's your responsibility to keep them safe. And yes, there should be more resources, there should be more help, but there is no excuse for killing your child. Neurotypical, disabled, neurodiverse, whatever they are, whoever they are. There's no excuse for treating them this way. The excuses, I guess, aren't as vile as the actual crime, because the crime is extremely vile, but they're up there. It's disgusting how often these crimes are just dismissed as, oh, those poor parents, they must have been so stressed out. No, we don't get to just excuse this and dismiss it and say that it's okay. It's still horrendous and horrible. And our society can't just act like it's okay to kill disabled people because someone is stressed out. Being stressed out is not a reason to kill someone. Anyways, that's my soapbox. It's something that's bothered me since always when I've read these articles, when they come up, whenever something like this happens. I mean, you see parents who do horrible things. The number of people making excuses for people like Chris Watts are so much smaller than the number of people making excuses for someone like this guy, and it shouldn't be that way. Both crimes are disgusting and vile. That is it for today. If you like this video, we'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up, and if you're interested in all things autism, we'd love it if you'd hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.